of a typical river in North Queensland, painted by Elsa Armstrong, who we knew in Cannon Valley, and she painted it in 1966 especially for us. These bark paintings come from Northern Territory, some of them from Adelaide River, some from Owen Pelly and various other places, some of them by known artists. The reproductions...
Albert Namatjira and Claude Panker.
Well, the reproductions are Namatjira. The Claude Panker, which is above the organ, is an original. The one above that is an original by a boy on Elsie Station.
Close enough to...
I think you'd get reflection in that, wouldn't you?
No, don't touch.
Oh, that's right.
Not too fast. The boomerangs are typical of the boomerangs that they're selling on the All Deer station in the Nullarbor Plains, on the highway across from Adelaide to Western Australia. Up behind.
By Elsie Armstrong?
Yeah, hang on.
Right.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Norman started collecting these stone axes right from the time he first bought the orchards down at Castlereagh Road near Penrith, and he collected many over the years as he ploughed the fields. The area was a well-known Aboriginal site, and the house was actually built on what they called Bird's Eye Corner, which was a famous Aboriginal area, and that is where Blaxland, Lawson and Wentworth camped the night before they headed across the Blue Mountains in 1813. There were many pieces of old Australiana that were collected, and these are just a sample of a few. The trap is a man trap for catching escaped convicts. It's an absolutely ghastly instrument of torture. And the next is a water bottle, the original old hot water bottle that they used to use. They're made of stone. And the two camp ovens, the one with the lid belonged to Norman's father-in-law, his first father-in-law, Mr. Atkinson, who was the Deputy Commissioner of Police. The quart pot is sitting in the other one, and it's the type of pot that the stockmen used to use for making their cups of tea. Was a field telephone used by the army.
Right. That's Dad at the age of 91, still able to trip the light fantastic with a didgeridoo. Right.
This is a didgeridoo that Norman got way up on Cape York. It certainly has taken a great deal of effort on somebody's part to hollow out a twisted log like that, but it has a very beautiful deep tone. Most of them are made of straight pieces of timber in all sizes and shapes, and they're often decorated with yellow or red or white ochre. Yeah, I know.
The sequence of 3 times.
Yeah.
The next was middle one's worn, and the last one too.
The Aldia tribe supplied the first one we had. It's really they're pubic tassels. They're more than a dress, and the warriors used to collect the hair, the human hair, from their mother-in-law, and if they were injured during battle, they came home and took it out on their mother-in-law because they vowed and declared she must have been up to no good.
Now, what are these ones?
I think they're from Port Keats,
Where's that?
the Northern Territory. There's one behind you too. These smears are from Roper River that Ken Griffith, who was a missionary at the time in 1928, brought home from that area. And some boomerangs, they have entirely different type of boomerangs in the north to the ones in the south.
Yep. And how and when were most of these collected?
Mostly when we were around, did the Around Australia trip in 1966, but we have gathered more since. We've had some sent to us. We bought some from CMS after that, and other people have given us some over the years.
And the conch?
The conch shell was given to Norman Hunter Sr. and his wife Ellie when they went on a Pacific cruise and called in at Rarotonga in wherever the capital is, Nuku'alofa in Tonga. And they had introductions to the Queen when they went over there. But as she was unable to receive them at the time, she sent them that shell as a welcome token and a greetings.
How big would the crocodile have been?
12 feet, 14 feet.
10 or 12 feet. And the teeth, the big one up there.
Now, if this crocodile was 10 to 12 feet long, how big was the one that belonged to these teeth? Now, how big was that crocodile?
20-foot crocodile.
Yeah. I don't think I would have liked to have met it on a dark night. Okay.
That's a coolerman down on the floor, and it's the main vessel that the Aboriginals made. They used it for carrying things, for water, for seeds, and also they used it for carrying their babies.
Put it in safe.
Right. Where was it found?
It came from Roper River with the other things from Ken Griffith.
And about when?
1928. That's a clay water jar that Norman bought from Pari village in Port Moresby in 1936 when he and Billy were on a cruise.
You spoke about?
Yep, that's it. And it was used for collecting fresh water, was it?
Yes. Most of these things are from New Guinea. Various qualities, and some of them extremely old age. Some of them are more modern and made specially for tourists.
Where you got them then?
And is that a Chimbu dancing shield?
That's a Chimbu shield.
War shield, is it?
It's a war shield, and they both have dints in them where they've collected spears at one time or another.
We collected those from 1936 onward, when they were, it was legal to get them out of the country. Since then, they've been prevented, but we had them examined to see if we should return any, but we've had them cleared and had them all cleaned, we can retain them.
Are there any of the masks in particular that are important?
This is a boar's tusk necklace that would be extraordinarily precious. The two pieces of cuscus skin would apparently donate that the chief or whoever it was who wore it had killed two people.
200 years ago.
It's, I imagine, very, very old. And they trained their boars by chipping out a piece of the jaw and allowing the tusks to grow and keep on growing in a circular fashion, so that the more circular the tusks were, the more value it was. They didn't allow them to root in the ground so that it would wear the tusk down, and only fed them on soft food.
Right. Right.
These are cassowary bone daggers, taking the bone from the long leg bone from the cassowary. And they certainly were very heavy and easy to wield. And these two are also curved boar's tusks, carefully cultivated so that they make a nice curve.
One very uncomfortable pillow. From where?
Sepik River, in the form of a turtle.
What are these?
These are drums carved. This one, the big one, is probably just a trade piece, but the black one is an old drum, obviously been in use, and the skin was a goanna skin. It still has the feet of the goanna on it. And when Norman bought the drum in Goroka, or Mount Hagen, up on the highlands anyway, it didn't have the skin on it, and the natives took him down to a stream where they soaked the skin and they put it across the top and let it shrink until it was taut. And then they put pieces of resin on it to shrink it even more. And these are typical of the bow and the arrows that the natives use. Norman saw them in use up on the highlands and bought some of these to bring back.
Have these got poison tips?
No, as far as I know they haven't, but some of them are very skillfully barbed. Some of them are joined. They're beautifully made. These clubs and drums and other things from this corner mostly come from Vanuatu, New Hebrides, but some of them came from other islands. We're not too sure where. The little figures across the top were supposedly from graves from the New Hebrides and brought to us by Captain Brett Hilder, who was on the Bulolo, captain of the Bulolo, the Burns Filk boat.
And what's that little pot?
And that's a clay cooking pot from one of the islands in...
Just an ordinary cooking pot, is it?
Just an ordinary cooking pot, but so beautifully decorated in traditional style, and it's from Ambrin Island in Vanuatu.
What?
These were very nasty items of torture, I should call it, or warfare, and they're decorated along the side with shark's teeth, and the idea was that you got in amongst the enemy and you slashed, and you really left your mark on them.
Yeah, what's that?
This is a nose flute. You very neatly put your nose in the wedge at the top, and there are a couple of little holes here so that you can change the tune, and this comes from Malakula in New Hebrides. This is a pan pipe, and it also comes from New Hebrides, that you blow across the top, and you can make quite a good little tune. It was collected by Bob Shaw when we were up on Dutton River Station in Queensland, about 90 miles north of Hughenden. We didn't on Dutton River Station, which is 90 miles north of Hughenden in Queensland, and this skull was actually found by Bob Shaw, who was the manager at the time. And when we were there, we were able to search around and find other things. But now, we didn't know what this was when we first got it, but Dr. Alec Ritchie of the Australian Museum identified it as a skull of an ichthyosaur. And this is the eye socket. This is the bone of the upper jaw, and this is the lower jaw. There is one large back tooth there, and there are some small teeth, front teeth here. And it is quite a rare item, and the Australian Museum very much want it. This is a vertebrae of the same animal, which probably was probably 20 feet long or more. Also in that same area we found ammonites, which were an animal that ostensibly about 150 million years old, the same as this, which is in the Jurassic and Cretaceous era. These ammonites grew quite large, and the only living relative they have nowadays is the chambered nautilus. They're much the same shape. You can see the inside construction of the ammonite, and the sections like this, which is the same as the modern... Yeah?
And that's just the front tip of it, is it, with the compressed
yes,
teeth?
And you can see the teeth there. It's compressed the wrong way. It was flatter, rather like a crocodile jaw, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some more vertebrae beside it, and various other things that have been picked up, that we picked up in that area. There are also some insect casts and things from Avoca Beach, and bits and pieces we picked up over the years.
This is a plaster cast taken in about the late 1970s of the unborn fetus of an ichthyosaurus. It would have been just before birth.
These are fossils that have been sent to us mainly from America. There are various ones there. There are different types of ammonite, shark's teeth, and various little bits and pieces that we found very, very interesting and much appreciated that people sent us such things.
That shark must have been a pretty big shark.
Very big shark. The sharks have not altered in conformation for many millions of years.
He must have been a great granddaddy of Jaws.
Probably.
Where's this from?
These are artefacts from the Solomon Islands. The necklaces are made from pieces of shell which are strung together to make bride price. Brides are still bought in the Solomon Islands with bride price, and the shell is collected and mostly made on an island called La Lassie off Malata. And the shells are chipped into pieces about threepenny bit, I used to say, and then a hole would be made. This is bride price. It's made from the shell as I described, and put into strings with 10 strands put together, connected like that with either a piece of timber or a piece of bamboo, and it's those things which are very, very precious are called bride price. And to buy a bride you need so many of those, plus cows, pigs or whatever. Now the pieces of shells are collected in the local lagoons, broken into small pieces, and then a hole is drilled by this marvellous drill, and the women work so very cleverly with them, working this piece of bamboo up and down, and the drill spins back and forth, and there's a piece of agate in here that makes the hole in the little shell, and then the shells are strung and put into a piece of coral with a groove, and they're rubbed back and forth until they're smooth and then strung together like this.
Right.
That's a picture of the girl with that drill, and also the man with the rubbing the shells on that long piece of coral to smooth them over and make them round.
Okay.
These are mostly snakes and eels and various other things that we've collected over the years when we've come across snakes when we've been collecting shells or land snails, and that have really got in our way. Sometimes we've found them dead. Sometimes when we've been out on coral atolls way out in the coral sea, we've found dead sea snakes washed up on the sand. The particular one in the middle, the very big one, is one that was found on the beach at Broome, and it was thought that he might have bitten a man the day before. As we've collected shells, turned rocks and what have you, we've collected crabs as we've gone by. Many of them have been of interest to the Australian Museum. The very big one in the corner was collected in the Bass Strait. The fishermen catch them quite easily when they're fishing in extremely deep water. They're very edible flesh, and it's only recently that they've started to catch them commercially, but I really don't think that it's a good idea to collect many of them for commercial purposes. Some of the big crab in the centre of the cabinet is a coconut crab, and they actually go up coconut trees and break the coconuts down and then eat the coconut flesh when they break as they split open.
That wouldn't be a left and right-handed crab that I see down there, is it?
Yes, we didn't know that crabs had left and right hands, but they do. And we find some with some of the particular genuses that have one large claw and one small claw, the large claw for hunting and the small claw to feed to the mouth, because the large claw won't reach the mouth. And we find that some of them have the large claw on the right and some have them on the left. The back of the cabinet is the first shell we collected for our collection, and we found it on, Norman found it on Daydream Island, and it was just one lump of mud, and we were not at all impressed with it until Vi Thompson cleaned it, and we thought it was such a lovely shell that started us collecting our shell collection. That shell started us collecting, and from then on we collected anything that just happened in our way. We collected crabs when we were shelling, we collected insects when we were not shelling, we collected minerals and various other things. But the shell collection was our main interest, and that's the one that is housed behind the cupboards mainly, right at the back of the museum, apart from the very showy shells that are in the showcases.
Now, where did the butterflies come from?
The first cabinet is Malaysian, but this one is New Guinea, the small blue butterflies. They're New Guinea butterflies, and they continue right on in the four main cabinets. And these were collected by Richard Carver, who was a government entomologist in New Guinea for many years. And it was in 1967 that Norman and Mervyn acquired this collection to bring down for our museum, as it was in the street called Pacific Wanderland. Some of them, in fact most of them, Richard bred himself, and some of them are exceedingly rare, like the Meridionalis, the pair of Meridionalis, which he bred by seeing a female hovering over a leaf and laying eggs, and every day he went down to towards the Brown River out of Port Moresby to watch that clutch of eggs. And eventually the little caterpillars came out, and he was then able to collect them all and breed them up, and that pair is the result. There are many rare ones. The very big ones, the two lower ones, are Alexandria, and the two on the top are Victoria. Very good. This is how they used to present coral when we first used to go up to the Barrier Reef in 1963. It was always coloured, always pretty, always artificial. But we very soon realised that that was a very stupid thing to do, because coral, as a tourist sees it, is never like that. So how beautiful coral was in its natural, beautiful white. There are very rare corals that have a natural colour, one being the red pipe organ coral, which you see there in the camera, and also, as we move along, there's the black coral, and at the bottom you see that that is a piece that looks just like a branch of a tree washed up on a rock or on the beach, and above that is the shiny polished coral, and that is the very rare black coral that is used for jewellery. These corals were collected by Doug Tarker in very deep water, and you can see that they're pure white, and really that's the skeleton of the animal. The animal itself is the colour, and that normally only comes out at night. These corals, if you look up very closely, you can see have minute holes all over them, and these are the holes that the little coral polyps live in. They're very, very brittle, and when you pick them out of the water and let the coral die, they have a particularly obnoxious smell. Okay. These are moths that Richard Carver has collected from New Guinea, and you can see that moths are not always ugly. Some of them are superbly beautiful. These butterflies were collected from the various Pacific Islands, the Solomons, New Hebrides and New Caledonia. The next cabinet is moths, mainly from the Pacific Islands. Then butterflies from Japan and Taiwan. And then other countries, the A.D. Mayer's collection, our friend Arthur Mayers, who was always a butterfly collector and taught us mostly what we know about butterflies. And that's one cabinet where we bought butterflies. These are parts of the A.D. Mayer's collection. The next cabinet has Indonesian butterflies and the beautiful lunar moths that come from Asia. The next cabinet has Hesperides in it, which have characteristics of both moths and butterflies, so they're a sort of halfway house. Then we come into our own Australian collection, butterflies we've collected ourselves, a great number of them from Avoca Beach, but also quite a few that we've collected in Queensland. So most of these we have collected ourselves and had a great deal of pleasure doing it. These cabinets are our moth collection. Some of them are quite rare, and some just show you how beautiful some moths can be. The very big ones are Zelatipias, which the Department of Agriculture didn't even know still existed. They thought they were extinct. And it wasn't until Graham Brown came up and saw them here and found where they came from at McMaster's Beach, and later were able to get some other specimens for their collection. The last cabinet show the sphinget moths, the hawk moths, and they've always been a particular love of mine, and I've bred a great number of them for various scientists, mostly Max Moulds and the ANU in Canberra. This is an atlas moth from Asia, and it is a marvellous picture of God's glory by showing the camouflage that a moth can use. One sees the snake's head at the top of the wing, and you can imagine when those wings are folded that snake's head would look very real.
Go quick.
These are cicadas, mostly collected right here on the property at Avoca Beach, and the ones with the blue labels are the holotypes of a new specimen, a species that Max Mould named after Norman, Cicadetta hunteri. Okay.
Go.
This is typical of the work that I've tried to do by keeping good locality data and data of the various inspars of the caterpillars, and it has always given me a great deal of pleasure. Very beautiful butterflies, moths, I beg your pardon. These specimens have been set out so that they could be learning material for schools or anybody interested in the various types of insects. These spiders, of course, always get a lot of attention. The very huge one comes from Thailand, and the other two bigger ones are funnel webs from here. Spiders, of course, are not insects. And the various other families are all exampled here. These are collecting boxes that we take away with us when we go, and this is a killing jar that has poison in it, and we take those with us to kill the insects. Then they're brought home in envelopes or in these boxes, and then they're put in relaxing pots like this with sand and chemicals, and then when they're set out we pin them and they're put out like these, the various different insects, some on papers, the small ones, and some just on pins.
And do they all get identified?
Yes, they're all identified. They all have their own little labels.
And how do you remember where they're from?
Well, they have identity labels on them. Some of them, of course, have about 3 labels on the pin, so that it gives full data of them, who collected them, where they were collected, and their identification.
So that means every single insect in this collection, you know exactly where each one comes from?
Yes, they're all identified. Most of them have numbers, and each number is card indexed and also put in the catalogue.
Wow. So each insect has one of these cards filled in for it?
Yes, that's right. And not only once, but they're separately, each one. And then
So what was that? Genus, species?
genus, species, and then each specimen. So, and this is also a backup of a catalogue too, where they're catalogued in here.
And is it on computer?
No.
Good.
That's cool, yeah. But when I was younger, it was almost like pocket passion, like church, that's
Go.
When we weren't collecting butterflies, moths, shells and other things, we collected minerals wherever we went. And you'll see there a very stripy looking stone which comes from the Ord River, and that's called zebra stone. It's quite a rare stone, it's only found in the one area. Quite soft, but it does make very good ornaments and jewellery. There are various other things there. Geodes of amethyst right in the front, and other geodes.
And what's that yellow looking stuff?
I think it's sulphur.
No. It says something ore. Hey, that's uranium.
Oh, so it is. Yes, we got that from up near Bachelor in Northern Territory. I can't think of it.
Is that why they call it yellow cake?
Possibly. It's that particular specimen's supposed not to be radioactive.
Don't
The very
believe
blue one is a man-made
Copper?
Specimen of copper, yes. And then coming round further, those brightly coloured pieces of obsidian are natural, and they come from volcanoes in Mexico. Obsidian being volcanic glass.
What's normally black, isn't it?
Yes, the teardrop ones come from America somewhere. Then there's this beautiful rhodonite, which is found up in northern New South Wales, and it polishes most beautifully.
They make jewellery out of that too, don't
Yes,
they?
they do.
Have you ever
Superb
tried that?
jewellery. Yes. Which makes it into very nice jewellery, which I've very happily been able to do over the years. Not all of them, but some. These are rough sapphires. This is tiger eye, which is fossilised asbestos from South Africa. The things at the bottom are made of emu feathers, and they're Kadacha boots, which means the Kadacha man, the magic man, who points a bone in Aboriginal law, wears these shoes made of emu feathers so that where they walk they don't leave footprints. The tall thing at the back is a corroboree hat that Norman got in Bamaga in 1973, or earlier I think, and they came from right up the very tip of Cape York, and they are made of feathers and hair and various things like that, with emu feathers at the top.
Go.
These sponges were collected on the Pardue Sounds in Western Australia in 1966. They're just one of the things that we've collected as we've gone along. Quite interesting, just blowing along the 100 Mile beach and then you can see starfish and various other things, seahorses, and lots of marine specimens. And these things we've collected just as incidentals, but the main collection in the whole museum is the shell collection, which is housed behind these doors. They hold many thousands of shells of various kinds and sizes, and most of them have been catalogued, like the butterflies were, each one named, and each one card indexed and catalogued as thoroughly as we could with locality data and who collected them and their identifications.
And how many drawers are there here?
About 300 drawers.
And about how many shells in each drawer?
Oh, probably 200.
That's a lot of shells.
Yes, it is a lot of shells, and we've collected them over many, many years.
Okay.
These are in the cowrie section, and this shows you how we've catalogued them. The blue labels are for foreign shells, the white labels are for Australian shells, and each one is numbered and catalogued. This drawer is purely and simply a drawer from the Moraue Sound in the Solomon Islands, and that drawer is not catalogued, and just with stored shells there. These show you the different types of cowries. We have this minute little cowrie which is called a Catholicorum, a very rare shell, and then you've got the very beautiful tiger cowrie which is very common. This is a most sought after shell called a golden cowrie. It's not really rare but just sought after because of its beauty, its superb lines and colour. And most of the shells will have, apart from the number on them, which you will see on some of the most of the shells, like this, there is the catalogue number 1041. This section contains the cone shells, and you have two main varieties. You have the weed eaters, which have the straight mouth that live on the reefs, and you have the animal eaters with a very wide mouth, and it's these shells that are poisonous to humans, and to fish too, because that's what they do. They live on the fish that live in the ocean beside them. They come in very different varieties. There are many varieties and sizes and shapes. Some of them very dreary looking shells, some of them very beautiful shells. These are murex shells. They're absolutely beautiful, but they live in the muddiest areas. As you can see, this is a Palma rosa. Such a beautiful shell, called Palma rosa because all its palm fronds are rosy. And this one, alabaster, superb colour, superb formation. But these shells are rather cannibalistic. They bore holes in other shells, and they live in quite thick mud. They come in a variety of shape, and of course in variety of colours. Again, you can see a variety of colours and shapes, and these come from various parts of the world. This is another family of shells, most of them found in very deep water, and you can see the startling markings on these very rare shells called bednali. And it was in this family that produced the shell that we claim as our logo. This is called Symbiolista hunteri, not named after us, but because it's hunteri and because it's a lovely shell, we've always used it as our trademark. These are spider shells. They're very popular with the tourists. They're strombus, and strombus have very, very well-developed eyes, and as they see you coming, they can flip themselves over and try and hide in pools. They look so startling, and yet when you see them in their natural surroundings, covered with weed and mud and in amongst the rocks, they sometimes are very hard to find. And they too come in many shapes and sizes and colours. Charagra, the arthritic one. And the beautiful Gallus from West Indies. And it's this family that also people can make jewellery from. Miters, and they come from in a very small variety, pretty apricot colour to very large black, and down to these beautiful orange coloured ones that are not easy to find, and yet over the years we seem to have collected quite a number and varieties. That's not all one kind of shell. There are about 6 different kinds in this drawer. Nautilus shells. The ones at the bottom are paper nautilus, and the paper nautilus only make those cases to carry their eggs in, and they have an appearance like a squid, and they lay their eggs, and then they carry these cases around with their one tentacle. But the chambered nautilus at the top, they are a permanent shell, and the animal actually lives in the shell.
Okay.
This is just a display cabinet of some of our pretty murex shells. They always catch the eye, and we've just put them there to show how pretty shells can be. The spindle shells at the bottom are a separate family, and I had nowhere else to put them, so I decided I'd put them on blue paper and make a pretty design of them. And the coloured shells at the top come from Carnarvon. They're a well-known scallop shell, and the yellow one's particularly named Carnarvon yellows. That's the rarest colour of the lot. The spiny shell is an oyster, a spondylus oyster from America, and it's called a jewel box in America, and our friend Helen Denny sent it to us from Sanibel in Florida. She had a shell shop there which she called the jewel box, and they come in most superb colours, and she used to dive for these herself in fairly deep water. As you can see, it opens like a jewel box, and you can imagine a pretty little mermaid living in there. These are spines from a stingray, and if we can come up really close, you can see that all the way along the edges are serrations, like a spear, which mean they go in easily, but they tear coming out, and they inflict a very, very severe sting. These are eggs that we didn't collect. We fell heir to them, and we've never sought them. But as you can see, there are some pelican eggs, some penguin eggs, some royal penguin eggs, and these came from scientists who were working in the Antarctic and very kindly sent them to us. But the others, a lot of them, we can't even identify, but we just know that these are seabird eggs, and a few of them we do know. Very large egg in the back is an ostrich, and there's an emu egg at the bottom too. Right at the back you'll see a white shell, egg shell, and that's a cassowary, and the dark one is an emu.
Good.
This has been our life's work. Norman Hunter, Sheila Hunter, our shell collection, and everything else that's in this room has been our delight and our joy.
And we're very thankful to our little sister Sheila for doing all the work of taking them. She must be very tired and worn out.
Right.
That picture is one of Elsa Armstrong's from Cannon Valley. She painted that looking right across the bay in Cannon Valley towards Airlie Beach. Beautiful moonlight scene on a tropical night. The ornament at the top was made by old Arthur Mears, who's now 96, and he spent many years collecting shells and making such ornaments. Beside that is Norman's brother Mervyn, and beside that the wedding picture of himself with his bride Fred. Below that is a picture of our son Norman, Gus, who was receiving his Master of Arts in Bathurst on the day that was taken, and that's his certificate. And that's an old cricket team photo, 1931-32.
Yeah.
Norman Hunter wanted a record of